Hey everyone, and welcome back. You ever get that feeling like you're standing in your own way when you're trying to reach a goal?
Yeah.
It's like we're our own worst enemies sometimes.
It's so true.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to figure out how to make the choices we make work for us, not against us.
And we've got a great guide for this deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
This piece by Jackson Kaposa called Choices and Goals.
Okay.
And you know what I like about it?
What's that?
It doesn't have all that cheesy self-help stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, right.
It really digs into like the psychology,
Yeah.
why we sometimes sabotage our own success, even when we have the best intentions.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly battling ourselves. So how do we escape that cycle? What's the big takeaway?
Well, Kaposa points out this idea of short-term versus long-term consequences.
Okay.
And he illustrates it really well with this story about a CEO who almost lost his entire company.
Wow.
Because he was so focused on the short-term wins, those quarterly profits, that he totally forgot about the long-term health and innovation of the business.
Wow, that's a pretty high-stakes example.
Yeah,
So it's not just about like procrastinating on a deadline.
Right.
It's about understanding that every choice we make has these ripple effects into the future,
Exactly.
even if we don't see them right away.
Exactly. Like we usually think about the immediate impact of our choices. Like staying up late means we'll be tired tomorrow, right?
Right.
But it's those long-term consequences.
Yeah.
They really sneak up on us.
They do.
The difference between feeling satisfied for a moment and feeling fulfilled, in the long run.
That's a really good point. So how do we actually start making choices that support those long-term goals? Because knowing there's a difference is one thing,
Right.
but actually changing our behavior is a whole other beast.
Absolutely. And Kaposa argues that understanding that goal achievement isn't just about willpower.
Okay.
It's about strategy.
Oh.
And he uses this really interesting analogy of a student studying for an exam.
Okay, tell me more about this exam analogy. I'm intrigued.
Okay, so picture this. A student has an exam coming up,
Okay.
and they really need to study.
Yeah.
But instead of cracking open the books, they decide to watch TV. So in the short term, what happens? They have a fun evening,
Yeah.
maybe a few laughs.
Right.
But then in the long term,
Yeah.
they risk failing that exam
Yeah.
and jeopardizing, their academic goals.
Right. Right.
And Kaposa's point is that this doesn't just apply to exams.
Right.
It applies to, like, any goal we set for ourselves, big or small.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So whether it's starting a business, writing
Yeah.
a novel, or even just trying to eat healthier, we need to apply that same kind of strategic thinking.
Exactly.
Weighing that short-term temptation against the long-term payoff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Kaposa, he offers a framework to help us do that.
Okay.
And I bet you've heard of it.
Go on.
SMART goals.
Okay, yes, I have definitely heard of SMART goals.
Yeah.
But a refresher is always good.
Of course.
Especially in light of this, new way of thinking about it.
Exactly.
Aligning our choices with our future selves. So remind us, what does SMART stand for, and why did Kaposa find it so important?
Okay, so Kaposa, he truly believed that for a goal to be effective, really effective in driving the right choices, it has to be smart.
Okay.
And by that, he meant
Yeah.
specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay.
Each of those they each play a critical role
Okay.
in creating a roadmap for success,
Right.
which helps us navigate those, tempting short-term distractions and stay locked in on the bigger picture.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So let's break down those elements of a SMART goal
Let's do it.
and see how they can help us make choices that truly align with our long-term vision.
Yeah, I'm ready. So let's break it down, starting with specific. Kaposa, he really emphasized how important it was to have a specific goal. He said it's like, heading out on a trip, but you don't know where you're going. You might wander around for a while, but you're not likely to end up where you want to be.
Right, you'll just get lost. So instead of saying something vague like, I want to be healthier,
Yeah.
a more specific goal would be, what? I want to cook 3 healthy meals at home each week or something.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
You took a vague idea and turned it into an action, something real you can actually do.
Right.
And that's so key when it comes to making those everyday choices.
Yeah.
The ones that get you to that big goal.
That makes a lot of sense. So what about measurable? How do you even measure something like personal growth
Yeah.
or, making your relationships better?
Now, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Kaposa said that some goals are easy to measure with numbers, like losing weight or hitting a financial target.
Right.
But for things like personal growth, you have to get a little creative.
Okay.
Maybe you track how often you do things outside your comfort zone, how often you really look inward. Or for relationships, it could be about how many meaningful conversations you're having.
Oh.
Or how often you plan quality time together.
Yeah.
The important thing is finding a way to measure your progress, even if it's not with numbers.
I like that. It's like making those intangible things tangible.
Exactly.
Okay, so achievable. That one seems pretty self-explanatory.
Sure.
But I have a feeling there's more to it than meets the eye.
Absolutely. Kapoza, he warned about setting the bar too high.
Oh, yeah.
Because if it's too high, we get discouraged and give up before we even really start.
Right.
So he really stressed breaking those big goals down into smaller, manageable chunks.
Yeah.
It's about building momentum and celebrating those small wins.
So it's better to start small and gradually make it more challenging.
Exactly.
Kind of like training for a marathon.
Yes.
Perfect example.
You don't jump into running 26 miles on day one.
You got it. You got to set yourself up for success one step at a time.
I like it.
Now, relevant, this is where it's personal.
Okay.
Kapoza believed this was huge.
Because it doesn't matter how well defined your goal is if it doesn't mean anything to you.
Right, it has to matter to you.
If it doesn't resonate with your values, your aspirations.
It's like that saying, don't climb a ladder only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall.
Exactly. That's a good one.
Sometimes we can get so caught up in chasing a goal that we forget to ask ourselves, why am I even doing this? Is this even what I want?
Exactly. And that's a recipe for disappointment, even if you do achieve it.
Yeah.
Kapoza said it's so important to check in with yourself and make sure your goals are really what you want, not just what you think you should be doing.
I like that. So last but not least, time-bound. That one might seem obvious,
Yeah.
but there's got to be more to it.
Oh, there is, definitely. Kapoza actually said that this is usually the missing piece, the thing that separates a dream from reality.
Right, because without a deadline, it's easy to just keep pushing it off.
Exactly.
It just stays a someday goal.
Right. It's like that saying, a goal without a deadline is just a wish.
It's easy to let those goals just float around in the someday zone.
It really is. And Kapoza makes this interesting connection back to those hidden consequences.
Oh, yeah.
When we don't put a time limit on our goals,
Yeah.
we're basically choosing to ignore those consequences, the downsides of doing nothing.
It's like hitting the snooze button on our aspirations.
Exactly. Out of sight, out of mind.
Right?
Until it's too late.
Until suddenly it is.
Right. But when there's a deadline, when we have that date in mind,
Yeah.
we have to actually deal with those consequences. We can't just ignore them.
It makes it real.
Exactly. It's not a someday thing anymore.
Right.
It's a by this date I will have kind of thing.
Wow. I'm loving this framework. It's not just about setting any goal.
Yeah.
It's about understanding why we make the choices we make
Yes.
and using that knowledge to help us,
That's exactly what I found so powerful about Kapoza's work.
Yeah.
It's about giving ourselves the power to make choices that line up with our long-term vision, even when those short-term distractions come calling.
Which they always do.
They do.
So to wrap things up, we've really explored a lot. This whole idea of short-term versus long-term consequences and how those hidden consequences can really trip us up.
Yeah.
And of course, the power of using those SMART goals.
Yeah, to create that roadmap.
Exactly. To make choices that support, our bigger aspirations in life.
Absolutely. It's about aligning who we are today with who we want to be in the future.
I love that.
And, this piece really got me thinking.
Oh, yeah.
If our choices today are shaping our future selves,
Yeah.
what can we do today, even something small but meaningful,
Right.
to close that gap, to become the best version of ourselves?
That's such a powerful question.
It really is.
And a perfect note to end on, I think.
I think so too.
So thank you to everyone for taking this deep dive with us.
Yes, thank you.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep making those choices count.